Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top Dogs podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Doster, and UConn is coming off of a very nice, very impressive get-right game, knocking off Villanova in the Wells Fargo Center in front of 17,000 people, 73-63. I live down here in Philadelphia. I was thinking about getting tickets so that my family could attend that game, and I was looking at the secondary market for tickets, and the prices were expensive. It was probably $400 a pop to sit in the lower levels. It was about $100 to get in, to sit as high as you could in the upper levels. And by the time you got to about 3 hours before game time, there really were no tickets available in the secondary market. So it was an in-demand game. It was a loud crowd. It was a boisterous crowd, and it was one that was silenced pretty quickly with the way that UConn played. I don't know if there was a team in college basketball that needed a get-right game the way that UConn needed a get-right game on Saturday, and they absolutely got it. Before we get into the meat of this, please rate, review, subscribe to this podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts or consume podcasts. Any engagement really does help with the algorithm, and you guys know that we are beholden to the almighty algorithm when you are a content creator. I think the thing that impressed me the most about this game was that this wasn't the result of one guy going nuts. This wasn't the result of an individual having a performance that kind of went out and won you a basketball game, which we've seen in the past, right? Like I think of at Marquette last year when Solo had his 26 and hit 7 threes and kind of to put UConn on his back and led them to a win, right? That is something that I think is fairly unsustainable when it comes to winning at the college level, right? To be able to consistently win, you need a consistent effort and a balanced effort. And I don't think you can get more balanced than playing 9 guys and having all 9 guys score between 4 and 12 points and all 9 guys play at least 14 minutes in a 10-point road win where you led by 21 with about 8 minutes left in that game. There's a lot of things to take away from this. But I think the single biggest thing, and this is a talking point that we've had multiple times on the Field of 68, is something that has been a talking point among the UConn fans and the UConn creators that I follow, the defensive end of the floor. I thought the defense woke up big time. I would say it was the best performance that we saw from them on that end in February. And from the first 13 minutes, from the 13-minute mark of the first half until about the 4-minute mark of the second half, UConn gave up 32 points. Tyler Perkins got it going early, and Villanova made a bunch of shots early, and then late in the game, it was just kind of, the thing was over, and I think UConn kind of shut it off a little bit mentally, but 32 points in 29 minutes on the road against a really good Villanova team is a really, really good and promising performance. And I thought a lot of it was just kind of toughness, right? Was just kind of guarding your yard and keeping the guy in front. I think the biggest thing with this group, I said this on last week's show, is defending the ball on the perimeter and not getting beat on the bounce and not getting up paint touches and not allowing people to get by you and get straight line drives to the rim. I thought there might be some benchings coming into this game, but UConn with the same starting lineup and was rewarded for. I thought Solo was really good. I thought Braylon was about as good as he normally is. Silas is what he was on the defensive end, which is elite, and Alex actually looked better on that end. But the guys that needed to show up on that end showed up on that end. And we talked to Dan, and you're going to hear an interview with Dan Hurley here on the pod in a little bit from the episode of After Dark on Saturday night. But he told us that Alex wasn't moving like a cargo ship on Saturday. He was moving more like a tugboat. So it was a badly needed performance and a badly needed turn of health for Alex Caravan. I did want to talk about something quickly. I was asked about this last week, and I feel like I should elaborate on it. I mentioned rim protection as an issue on this pod, and I do believe that in a press conference somewhere, Dan said the same kind of a thing, right? When someone asked me why a team that is top 10 nationally in defensive block rate has rim protection issues, and that's what UConn is. They're number 10 right now. And I think my answer would be rim protection is not just block rate, right? You can get a lot of blocks and still be a team that can struggle at times defending at the rim and defending at the paint. I think that's what UConn has been the last 4 or 5 games, right? there's two ways to look at rim protection. One of those is having an eraser that is going to challenge everything at the basket, right? Terrace does, I mean, he blocks a lot of shots. A lot of them are those chase down blocks. A lot of them are, people don't realize, I think, how long and how athletic he is at his size. He looks like kind of just like a land warrior, but he's able to get to a lot of plays and a lot of balls where it feels like someone might have already beaten him off the bounce. Um, AK has some length. He gets some here and there. Ryba's not a bad shot blocker. But I think the bigger issue is just bigs being out of position, right? And I think too many times, especially in the last four games before Nova, but it's been a little bit of an issue before that. You didn't have anyone changing shots, and you didn't have anyone providing an incentive to not shoot getting to the rim. You know, none of the bigs were getting in the way. One of the things that when it comes to rim protection for big guys, the way that Klingon does it is obvious, right? Because he's so tall and long and such a good shot blocker and is able to challenge everything because you are never going to get anything over the top of him, right? We saw that with Villanova. I'm sorry, we saw that with Illinois in the Elite Eight in 2024. But the other way for to think about rim protection is just by having big guys that get in the way, right? I remember I was talking with Josh Schertz about Robbie Avila, he's pretty much the polar opposite of Donovan Clingan when it comes to the way that they play, but he is a good positional defender because he makes you change direction and he doesn't let you get all the way to the basket. And I think that the latter is the part that UConn has kind of been missing, right? They haven't had a deterrent that prevents you from taking shots at the rim. I had a coach once tell me that defensive 3-point rate means as much and has as much relevance in determining the teams that are the best at protecting the rim or protecting the paint as block percentage does and defensive block rate does, because that tells you who is preventing you from even being able to break that first line of defense and who has big guys at the basket that are incentivizing opponents to not try to take a shot at the rim. So forcing you to take a three means that you're not touching the paint at all. And I think that is something that gets a little bit overlooked when it comes to rim protection. So that's the answer that I would have about that. UConn is a good shot blocking team, but they have not been in the last four games specifically, the last 3 weeks specifically, great at preventing straight line drives to the rim and great at having big guys there to help at the rim to prevent those shots from getting off. I actually thought that Reed was better on Saturday, but I thought that Ryba provided huge minutes on that end. He's bigger. He's good at being in the right spot. Jay Ross is fantastic, man. He's such a good defender and such a good athlete, and I'm very happy to see him being able to contribute at a little bit of a higher level here. I would like to see him. There were some rotations where Dan went with this, but I would like to see him get a few more minutes at the four to spell AK a little bit. But it is there's so much that Alex does offensively in terms of his movement and his passing that makes it very difficult to take him off of the floor. I would say offensively that UConn has more or less figured this thing out. They're not quite to their ceiling because of turnover issues and because solo ball is still a little bit of an inefficient rate for what we would expect and hope them to be. But if you look at what they've done since January 26th on Torvik, which allows you to do some of these analytical measurements in a specific date range, UConn is 14th in adjusted offensive efficiency since January 26th. That is an 8-game sample that includes St. John's and 2 games against Villanova. So they look crisper. The shots are going down. It's frustrating that it took them taking a step back defensively to be able to figure some of that stuff out. But like, it is what it is, man. This is college basketball. This is what teams like this have to go through. I feel good about the spot that they're in right now with St. John's coming to town Wednesday, especially with Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday being locked in the gym because of all the snow. That will allow them to kind of figure some of this stuff out as well and get back in the practice gym. Biggest thing on Wednesday, not breaking news here. I feel like this is pretty obvious. Turnovers. Demery had seven of them against Villanova. He had 9 against St. John's the first time that they played. The volume of time that he has the ball in his hands combined with some of the stuff that he's going to be asked to do, especially late in the clock, means that he's probably going to have a little bit of a higher turnover rate than you would necessarily like. That's kind of like one of the you kind of have to accept the good with the bad. Some of it, right? There's going to be plays where you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect on every possession, and there's going to be moments where he has turnovers, right? But I think the the way that those turnovers are occurring, the fact that they are as unforced as they are, and there are some real just momentum killing ones that can change games and change moments and can be huge motivational plays for whoever UConn is dealing with. Those are the ones that you got to get cleaned up. Like it's one thing if Silas's shot clock's winding down and he's trying to make something happen by getting to the paint and make a pass to a teammate that is going to be a little bit of a tough, risky pass. It's another thing entirely where he's trying to set up the offense and the guy guarding him is able to time it up and pick his pocket. Or, there's 20 seconds left on the shot clock and he's trying to get around someone and he happens to lose the ball and dribble off of his foot. Those are the ones that just cannot happen if UConn is going to be good enough to be able to compete with St. John's on Wednesday, St. John's and Villanova in the Big East tournament, and do things that UConn wants to be able to do once you get to the NCAA tournament. I will say, and just to put a bow on it, I think UConn's ceiling is capped with some of those, with defensive issues, protecting the paint and turnover issues. Like those are going to be things that are killers, and those are the kind of things that will make you more susceptible to getting upset once you get to the NCAA tournament. And speaking of which, the top 16 reveal came out on Saturday, and I thought it was pretty apparent that UConn was probably not going to be the fourth number one seed after the loss to Creighton. And then I think you kind of got the best possible scenario with the way that the rest of Saturday played out for UConn to be able to have a chance to get back to being the fourth number one seed. Iowa State lost at BYU. Houston lost at home to Arizona. And Illinois blew a 23-point lead at UCLA to take a loss there. Those are the four teams that were kind of competing for that last number one spot with UConn, and UConn went on the road and got a win against Villanova. One of their best true road wins of the season, that in Kansas. So really helped. That helps. I still think that they're probably going to have to win out, win the Big East regular season, win the Big East tournament, and beat St. John's in the process to be able to really have a chance to be a number one seed. But I'm curious, and I actually want people to answer this and tell me what they want. Would you rather be the fourth number one seed playing in Houston, where you're likely going to have to match up with whoever the overall number one is in the Final Four if you get to that spot? Or would you rather be the two seed in a region like DC, if possible, where there's a real chance you could just end up getting Duke in the Elite Eight? I think I would tend to lean towards being the one seed, no matter what location you have to go to, no matter where you have to travel to, which would likely be Houston if UConn was a one seed. Even if that does mean that you got to play Houston in the Elite Eight potentially, I would rather do that than be the number two seed. I just think that you're better off not risking having to play one of Michigan, Duke, or Arizona if you are a two seed versus being a one seed and not having to deal with one of those three monsters until you get to the Final Four. But that's just where I'm at with it. I understand fans that are saying, well, it's a lot easier to get to DC, so I would like to stay in DC. Either way, I got a bunch of stuff from Saturday's episode of After Dark that I'm going to drop into this podcast here. I was with Goodman and John Martin, and we talked about UConn's win. And then I'm also going to drop in at the end the full interview with Dan Hurley if you guys are interested in listening to that. One story real quick I will tell about that. My son likes to hang out in my office on Saturdays and basically any day, actually, just hanging out, watching college basketball. I got an extra chair in here for him. I got two TVs in here. And he always he's fascinated by the fact that I get to interview a lot of the players and coaches that have big games. So when he found out that Dan was going to be one of the guys that we were interviewing, like he wanted to come over and just kind of say hi in the background as we got started. And the thing that he says to him, a 10-year-old kid, loves hoops, loves UConn, that he says to Dan Hurley when he sees him is he says, Dan, I think you curse more than Jeff Goodman does. That's what he said when he got a chance to say hello to Dan Hurley on a Zoom here in my office, which is no hello, no congrats, no great win, no really nice to meet you. Is I think you curse more than Jeff Goodman. So that was Chase's interaction with Dan Hurley. Anyway, let's get to those interviews. A couple stuff from After Dark here that I'm going to drop in at the end of this podcast, and I'm hoping next week I'll be able to get a preview done with SJU Dave again. I liked him. I thought he had some good takes, and seems like a good enough dude. So we'll see. I might be joined by him coming up either on Monday, probably more likely Tuesday morning. So keep it tuned here. If not, show up, be loud, show out, and turn the XL Center or the Civic Center or whatever the hell it is that they're calling it now into an absolute cauldron on Wednesday when St. John's comes to town. As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Today's episode of the Field of 68 is sponsored by Chubbies. Right now, I'm literally wearing their Everywhere pants. They are comfortable and stretchy to the point that it feels like I got on sweatpants in a business setting. I'm also a big fan of their classic line swim trunks. The built-in boxer brief liner is comfy, supportive, and most importantly, chafe-free. I had to get multiple pairs because I wore them every day down the shore last summer. This is year 15 for Chubbies as a business, and they are celebrating it by bringing back the shorts that started it all. The same iconic fit, the same lightweight and stretchy comfort-first design. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off with code F68 at chubbiesshorts.com. That's 20% off your order with code F68 at chubbiesshorts.com. Give your thighs the VIP treatment they deserve with Chubbies. Support our show and tell them we sent you.
But definitely want to make sure that we get to UConn, who, you know, after that tough, rough patch that they kind of hit, obviously losing to Creighton. Big win today by double digits on the road at Villanova. And Rob, I would just say, you know, outside of that first 4 minutes, that was the best defensive performance that we've seen from UConn in a while. Offensively, it looked like things had started to click. I still don't think we've seen a complete 40 minutes out of this group yet, but that was a big-time response on the road after obviously a very disappointing home loss.
Yeah, it's frustrating as a fan to watch it because you see how good they can be defensively when they have their moments where they're playing well. And then you see how good they can be on the offensive end when things click, right? From about the 13-minute mark until Villanova reeled off, I think they scored 13 points in the last minute and a half of this game. In that window, I think UConn gave up 29 points in 32 minutes. And when they defend like that, that is what they were at the start of the year. That is what they were when they were playing their best. That is what they were when they were a top 4 defense in the sport. And then they have moments where, you know, the first 16 minutes of the second half, they were more or less unguardable. And when they are clicking like that offensively, you see what they can be. But I don't know if we've had a game yet where you see that that defense and you see what they can be offensively, and you put those two things together for two halves of basketball. And that's where it's kind of like, well, we're now 3 games left in the regular season, right? Is that going to happen? Can they get to that ceiling, or is this just kind of who they are? And I think it's probably more the former, right? I still think that there is a ceiling for them to be able to get to, but every time it feels like they take a step forward, Silas Demery has 6 turnovers in the first half. Every time it feels like they take a step forward, they allow Josh Dix and Fedor Zugic to get to the rim literally whenever they want. So we'll see if they can eventually get there. I would probably still put my money on Dan Hurley being able to figure out how to be able to make that happen. But we have not seen a full 40 minutes of this team being what they can be offensively and being what they can be defensively yet. And they're 25-3 with a resume that is good enough to be the top number 2 seed in today's top 16 bracket reveal. So there's a lot of things that need to get figured out, but like the sky is certainly not falling on Storrs, Connecticut right now.
Yeah.
No, it's not falling. It's not falling. They're just not in the group that I thought they were going to be in at this point, right? I thought they were going to be there with, Michigan and Duke and Arizona. And I think I can safely admit now that they're not going to go in as one of those 3 favorites into the NCAA tournament. They haven't made as much progress as we thought they were going to make. They still have all the pieces. They can beat anybody on a given day. Absolutely. But, they've got their flaws. And I don't think Dan Hurley even would admit that he's got this team completely figured out. And Terrace Reed is a little bit of an enigma for me. And Silas Demery, like Rob said, is a little bit of an enigma with me. Alex Caravan, I love him to death, but, again, like he kind of is what he is. And they don't have those pros around him like he had, the last couple years ago. So I think they're the second tier team now. That doesn't mean they can't rip off 6 straight and win the whole thing. They're just not going to be one of those teams that, we just kind of penciled through to the Final Four like we did.
Mm-hmm. Well, earlier, these guys got a chance. What's up with all these coaching interviews that you guys are doing without me now? I mean, if I'm doing the show, you guys are just like, you're cutting me out. Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
You're not very good at the interviews. You're really
obviously you guys made that abundantly clear, because
you
this is the second. Sometimes you guys let me interview the players, but the coaches you keep to yourselves. These guys got a chance to catch up with Dan Hurley after the win. Take a listen.
And now let me welcome onto the field of 68 after dark, fresh off of a 73-63 win at Villanova, Dan Hurley. Dan, it felt like for about the middle 32 minutes of that game, you got back to playing UConn defense. I got to imagine the last couple of days in practice weren't easy. How'd you get these guys turned around and playing this way again?
I mean, shaming them, just the standard, man. I mean, it's like, these guys, we all get on campus starting in June, and really trying to, work your butt off and give yourself a chance to have a special year. And, just in the, like the performance the other night versus Creighton, like when you work as hard as we do and UConn gives you the resources that we get, like we can't let ourselves down like that. Like, showing up for a game. I mean, it's like just inexcusable. It was a really uncomfortable couple of days. And I thought for 36 minutes, you're up 21 against I think a Villanova team that's pretty good on the road. I thought it was like a real championship level response by us.
Your bench, I've been saying it for weeks, like you hadn't been getting as much out of your bench as I thought you would get this year. Because you have a good bench, like that should be a strength of yours, and it wasn't for I don't know, a couple of weeks, maybe a month. How important was it to get those guys going tonight?
You got to have it. I mean, you got to, we've got to have that. I think all the best teams have that. I think for us, we do. We've got 9 quality players. I think Big Eric Rob has had a great year for us. Malachi's been a little inconsistent, but like, those two wings for us are critical. I mean, just, what Jay Ross does for us defensively, and then, Stewart, just to have some wings that could switch 1 through 4. You saw their length. I thought ball going over. And then we got some offense, from just about everybody. So, when we had our big wins in the non-conference, like that's when the depth showed up for us. We beat Illinois and Florida, BYU, and they were healthy, and it was because of our depth. Let's go for it.
You mentioned after the Creighton game that Alex was moving like a cargo ship. He looked like he was a little bit better tonight. Is he back to healthy? Is this just kind of like a wear and tear kind of a thing?
He was moving around like a love boat. Captain Stubing and what was the bartender's name on that?
Rob's too young. I can't remember it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I got
the
you.
Love Boat. I mean, that's when the shows were good. But yeah, Alex was dealing with something. Maybe we should have sat him in that game. It was something that improved a lot because he only played like 22 minutes in the Creighton game. So not having to play the 36 minutes that he's been forced to play because I haven't been using the bench. And that's a me problem. I mean, I've got to trust the bench more so that AK doesn't break down the stretch. And you could saw it today. He moved more like himself. He had life in his legs. So, AK, he moved like a faster boat than a cargo ship, maybe tugboat.
Good stuff there with Coach Dan Hurley. All right, zooming out a little bit, St. John's beat the shit out of Creighton. So as we're sort of wrapping up here, taking a look at the top of the Big East, Rob, how do we handicap it right now?
I mean, we're going to find out Wednesday, right? St. John's got to make their return trip up to they're playing it in the XL Center. That I don't know if I love the decision to play the St. John's game at the XL Center, but I guess when they can figure they can sell 17,000 tickets for it, they might as well try to sell 17,000 tickets for it. If I am going to be completely honest, that matchup terrifies me. I just think St. John's is playing a certain level of basketball right now, and the way that they match up against UConn and kind of what St. John's does well and where UConn struggles is not ideal, man. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah,
I'm not going against your UConn Huskies in Hartford. Come on. We're not going against the UConn Huskies in Hartford. No chance.
Never.
They get the win.
Never.
They get the win.
Never. But I can sit here and be terrified about that matchup.
Yeah, you're just.
They're going to be pretty big favorites. They're going to be like. That's all right. Hedging is fine. Mm-hmm. It's better for your health, I think, in the long game. I mean, there's no valor with that. To be clear, like you have no balls, but your mental health is probably more preserved.
You just describe Rob.
And now let me welcome onto the field of 68 after dark, fresh off of a 73-63 win at Villanova, Dan Hurley. Dan, it felt like for about the middle 32 minutes of that game, you got back to playing UConn defense. I got to imagine the last couple of days in practice weren't easy. How'd you get these guys turned around and playing this way again?
I mean, shaming them, just the standard, man. I mean, it's like, these guys, we all get on campus starting in June, and really trying to, work your butt off and give yourself a chance to have a special year. And, just in the, like the performance the other night versus Creighton, like when you work as hard as we do and UConn gives you the resources that we get, like we can't let ourselves down like that. Like, showing up for a game. I mean, it's like just inexcusable. It was a really uncomfortable couple of days. And I thought for 36 minutes, you're up 21 against, I think a Villanova team that's pretty good on the road. I thought it was like a real championship level response by us.
Your bench, I've been saying it for weeks. Like you hadn't been getting as much out of your bench as I thought you would get this year. Because you have a good bench. Like that should be a strength of yours, and it wasn't for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, maybe a month. How important was it to get those guys going tonight?
You got to have it. I mean, you got to, we've got to have that. I think all the best teams have that. I think for us, we do. We've got got 9 quality players. I think Big Eric Rod has had a great year for us. Malachi's been a little inconsistent, but like those 2 wings for us are critical. I mean, just what Jay Ross does for us defensively, and then Stewart, just to have some wings that could switch 1 through 4. You saw their length. I thought ball was going over, and then we got some offense, from just about everybody. So. When we had our big wins in the non-conference, like that's when the depth showed up for us. We beat Illinois and Florida, BYU, and they were healthy, and it was because of our depth. Let's go for
it. You mentioned after the Creighton game that Alex was moving like a cargo ship. He looked like he was a little bit better tonight. Is he back to healthy? Is this just kind of like a wear and tear kind of a thing?
He was moving around like a love boat. Captain Stubing and what was the bartender's name on that?
Rob's too young. I can't remember it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I got
the
you.
Love Boat. I mean, that's when the shows were good. But Alex was dealing with something. Maybe we should have sat him in that game. It was something that improved a lot because he only played like 22 minutes in the Creighton game. So not having to play the 36 minutes that he's been forced to play because I haven't been using the bench, and that's a me problem. I mean, I've got to trust the bench more so that AK doesn't break down the stretch. And you could saw it today. He moved more like himself. He had life in his legs. So, AK, he moved like a faster boat than a cargo ship, maybe tugboat.
Speaking of old shows, you do remind me a little bit of Archie Bunker while we're talking about old shows.
No, he went too far. That was a different time. I mean, at times though, I get that. I could see it. I could see it.
I picked you guys to win the national title since I saw you guys back in November. Yeah. I've started to lose a little bit of faith lately. I'm still kind of there. No, I'm being honest with you.
Me too.
But then I watched, Dan, I kind of watched the teams around and we were just out. We saw Iowa State. We saw Houston. I've seen Duke. I've seen all these teams. Michigan multiple times.
Caravan just goes by, and Malachi.
There they are.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So tell me what needs to happen, for you guys to get back, get to the Final Four, and then I think there's 8-10 teams that have a shot to win this whole thing this year.
I do think. I do think there's a lot of teams that could win it. Obviously, what Duke has done. I mean, and them winning today, I guess they won. I mean, John's put it together and has done an awesome job coaching. But I think the thing you got to remember with us is that, the years that we've been really good, we even last year when we weren't anywhere near where, as good as we needed to be, we still played well in the NCAA tournament. I think we're at a disadvantage in some of these Big East games because we play differently. We don't have as big an advantage in the Big East because these people know us so well. They play against us so much. The referee, the games are officiated like
the referees. Here we go.
No, and I'm not saying no, they're
on the refs.
No. Listen, Evan was awesome tonight. Matt, I mean Pat. I got the tea from Pat in the tunnel at Providence, so we've come a long way since then. But I would say for us is like just don't. I guess don't forget about us that we tend to play better in the non-conference and in the NCAA tournament sometimes than we do in the Big East. The familiarity that teams have with the way that we play in the league, I think, and the physicality. Like we're a freedom of movement team. You get more of that in the NCAA tournament. You get less of that in the Big East.
All right, last one I got for you, Dan, and I need some advice, maybe some life advice. My son's 4th grade team. We got the Final Four of the SJBBL, the South Jersey Basketball League, coming up tomorrow. Earlier this season, though, like I got my first tech, and the refs are kind of upset with me. Like I got Goodman yelling at me saying that I got to be more appropriate on the sideline. I'm not treating these people right. How do I handle this? How do I handle the pressure right now?
Well, first of all, Jeff, and I think Jeff calls it as he sees it, but Jeff is very pro-official. I mean,
True.
he must
That's
have so
true.
many. He must have so many sources that are refs that feeding him because he is very protective of those guys. So anyway, I would say with you, I mean, who are you asking? Man?
You are asking the wrong
I know.
guy.
I mean, you're asking. I mean, maybe you're asking the right Hurley between me and Bob, but
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't know. I don't know, but I would say this. You're asking the wrong guy.
All right, I got one last one.
I can't even think of advice to give you.
I got one last one while we're on the topic here of technicals.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I don't know if you know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Total technicals since you've been a Division I coach. Take a guess what it is. We're going to look it up later and see how accurate you are.
Well, listen, I think year one at Wagner, it might have been 9. And then Bob got a couple too. So
I was there for one of them. I was there for one.
So it's like 9. I don't know. I would say I average probably 3 a year. Okay. I've been coaching in college, 2 years at Wagner, 6 at Rhodey, and now this is year 8. So I would say add
do the math. Dan, let's see if you can do math.
60?
How many times
around
3?
60? I would say around 60 because I'm probably going short on the 3, you know?
Okay.
So what does that mean? I've been a coach for 16. I've been a coach for 16 years, a little bit over 3. Yeah, I mean, I'm flirting with 55.
Are you? Do you think that's more or less than Bob?
I've coached a couple of years. I mean, average per year, I think Bob has. I think we're tied with ejections. I've been ejected out of Tulsa, Iowa, and Villanova. So I've had 3 ejections. He had the classic versus Arizona. Yes. I mean, the Gladiator one where he was waving the crowd. That was.
Yeah, he's got you beat. He's got you beat. That's the greatest one ever.
Yeah. Call Evan Maya or one of these people that does the analytics. I figure it out.
We're gonna find out. All right.
To figure out your technical foul efficiency.
Inefficiency, lack of self-control, efficiency.
All right, Dan, listen, we appreciate you jumping on, man. Get back safe. I hope you don't get stuck in any of this snow. We're getting 14 to 20 inches starting tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So
I hope you both get hammered with snow while I'm down here in 70 degrees.
Yeah, you know, the biggest loser obviously my wife Andrea is praying that there's no snow in for me. I mean, imagine being trapped.
Nothing worse. Nothing worse than that.
That poor woman. Oh my God.
Hey, at least it's coming off of a win and not a loss, right?
Oh yeah.
Very true.
Thanks, man.